Oh, we are so back, baby. We are so back. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Daniel Strong from QuickTime Reactions, and by my giddy reaction, we've got some more DC stuff to talk about. More specifically, the premiere of Season 2 of Peacemaker, Episode 1, The Ties That Grind. We catch up with all of our crew, and they are in very different positions to what they were at the end of last season. Peacemaker is trying to, find his way, try and, be a hero. Harcourt is trying to, get a job after Adebayo basically put out all that information. Adebayo is also looking for a job. Economos is still at Belle Reve and also working with Argus as well. And Vigilante is, of course, doing vigilante things and also working at a diner. So, how will all these characters kind of shift around as we kick off this new season? Let's talk about that, shall we? First off, I must talk about, before we even get into the main portion of the episode, we need to talk about the recap. Because James Gunn, you tricky little SOB, you changed what was the final scene. Not one of the final scenes. Yeah, it is one of the final scenes. One of the final scenes in episode 8. Now, granted, in season 1, it was Justice League. It was the Zack Snyder Justice League. But since, Peacemaker's coming into the DCU canon, they changed it to the Justice Gang. And they had everybody lined up. They had Mr. Terrific. They had Superman. They had Supergirl. And, of course, Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner, Green Lantern. And they even shot new footage of banter between Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner. That is absolutely insane. So I noticed what you did, James Gunn. Don't think we didn't see that. But we start off this episode with Peacemaker, Chris, and he's kind of, he's actually sleeping first off, and he has to take Eagly out so that he can fly around. But it's freezing cold outside, so they go into the quantum unfolding chamber so that he can go and fly around. And while Chris is looking for Eagly, he ends up stumbling across a door that Eagly's pecking at. Puts in his same code, and the door opens. And it's an alternate world where, shock and surprise, his father is still alive. And so Chris immediately bolts out of there, and that leads us into the opening dance sequence for this season. And oh my gosh. Oh, it is so good. It is so good. So many cool beats, and of course everybody gets involved in this. And I just love that at the center of it is Peacemaker and Harcourt. I just think that's really, really cool and really, really awesome. And it's set to some really good music. It was actually the first trailer's music that it is set to, which is awesome. And I just love seeing everybody together just doing their thing. And it just put me in the right kind of mood. And I was like, yes, we are back, baby. But then Chris goes for his interview with the Justice Gang. And the reason why Peacemaker can hear them, even though the mics are turned off, is because Guy had one of the security guards rig up the whole thing. And that's why it's not really the best that it could be. Chris is understandably, distraught about this, and so he goes home and gets so drunk and so high that he ends up inviting a whole host of people to just have a big orgy in his dad's house. I feel sorry for all of the reactors that are going to react to this episode and actually put out their reactions on YouTube. Because good luck trying to blur all that nudity. There's just a lot of nudity. Oh my gosh. Lots of hardcore drug usage and nudity in that one section. Oh my gosh. It's just it's gonna be a nightmare for reaction channels. I can only imagine. Meanwhile, over at Argus, they have sent John Economos over to basically perform surveillance on Peacemaker, just to make sure that he's not up to anything suspicious. But, of course, Peacemaker, high as a kite, and, maybe drunk, he goes over to his quantum unfolding chamber and drunkly and possibly in a very weird state ends up stumbling through and goes right to that alternate dimension. And of course the head of Argus at this point is Rick Flag Sr., Frank Grillo's character, who we did see in James Gunn's Superman film. And he even mentions the Superman film in this when he's talking to his aide, which I didn't catch her name, but he tells his aide that we don't want another incident like the Luthor incident, a reference to Superman in which Lex Luthor opened up his pocket dimension and basically broke Metropolis in half, essentially. And also, he's also kind of out for revenge on Peacemaker for, killing his son as well. That's probably also why he's wanting to watch Peacemaker. I think the two big standouts in this episode were Cena and Jennifer Holland as Harcourt. Like, they had a really cool conversation in Harcourt's apartment early on in the episode, and then both of them have kind of like the big moments towards the tail end of the episode where Peacemaker's in that alternate dimension, and he's just like soaking everything in. He's a hero here, but not only that, he's got his dad here, but also his brother is alive. Keith is alive, and so he's got everything that he's ever wanted in his life, that he wanted to have in his world, but it's in this world. And there's this like awesome moment where all three of them are sitting down, that are drinking, my assumption, like bourbon or maybe even whiskey or something, and Augie and Keith, they head to bed, and Chris just like sits in that chair and just cries, and you feel for him because it's like, this is everything that he ever wanted in his life, in his world, and he never got that. And here in this world, it's everything he's ever wanted. Meanwhile, Harcourt goes to a bar just basically to pick a fight with somebody. And even earlier, she was trying to get a job, and the employer who did the hiring was like, I think you have a trait of toxic masculinity. And Harcourt's like, excuse me? It's just, and ends up just arguing this guy to death she gets escorted back to her car, and she just punches the crap out of her dashboard, leaving her like knuckles bloody. Um, and she comes out worse for wear in the bar fight. She does hold her own for a little bit, and props to Jennifer Holland for doing all that stuff for the stunt work, because man, it was a lot. It was shot really really well. Um, but yeah, she ends up just out in the parking lot on her back after trying to take on everybody in that bar, and it did not work. Um, Meanwhile, in the other dimension, Chris is, you know, looking around and finds his room, and is looking at pictures of him and his brother when the other Peacemaker, the other Chris, shows up and is like, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" And, our Chris is trying to, explain himself, but it's not working, so we get a Peacemaker versus Peacemaker fight. And that second Peacemaker has definitely got his number, because he had a helmet that can activate like ninja stars and was cutting up his back. He had a jetpack that he was slamming him into in that unfolding chamber, and he was just beating the crap out of him, punch after punch after punch, until eventually our Chris pulled a fast one, activated the jetpack, and impaled the other Chris on like a yeah, I guess like a spike on the ceiling, even though it wasn't a spike, and kills the other Chris. And I love the fact that Gunn pointed out in the behind the scenes featurette at the end of the episode, where he said like he killed his brother when he was young. When he was older, he killed his father, and now he's killed a different version of himself. And death has just kind of followed him throughout his whole life. And much like Miguel O'Hara in Into the Spider-Verse, he sees that opportunity to try and step into his other shoes, to try and fill that void, while also trying to live his life in his world. And we're going to see how well that turns out for him as that episode goes along. But I really loved this first episode. It was so much fun to just reconnect with everybody, and I love that this episode really sets the table as to what kind of crazy stuff we're going to get to in this season. But yeah, this episode absolutely rules, and it's just so good to be back in this world. But yeah, that is it for my review of Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1. I'm very much looking forward to next week's episode. But until then, guys, be safe out there. And remember, if you walk into a bar wanting to start a bar fight, I would probably just like single out one person and maybe do it in the alley of the bar, instead of having to take on like everybody. But that's just my opinion here. And I will see you guys next time.